So the New York City requirements for trash bins is in effect, and as you can see, walking by, you see these bins being filled. Now, I'm all for it. I think it's a way for the city to clean up the streets, and frankly, it will help because if you just have the garbage bags laying around, they're prone to leaking, and that leads to the foul smell, but also rodents that have easier access to them. But I think right now is what I'm realizing is a lot of the times if you just have like garbage that overflowed and you don't have another bin, you're putting it on the side anyways. So it kind of, if you're going to put the garbage on the side, I guess it helps clean it a little bit. But I think the city really needs to mandate you put all the garbage in it. And even in cases where, like here, you have it overflowed and you have the lid open, I mean, this too kind of defeats the whole purpose. So I think the city really, and then you can even see it over there. So I think the city really needs to enforce, even add a requirement for the bins to be closed, because if you're just going to keep the bins open, then I think it defeats the whole purpose of keeping the area clean. So, but it is a nice step in the right direction. I mean, if you can just imagine, without these bins, these bags would have just been laying here. So I think this is a step in the right direction. This is something that I think the city could have done a while ago. And I don't really understand why some people are complaining. I guess some people are complaining that just on the burden, the additional cost that now these businesses have to buy these bins. And I think the city was providing their own bins and they were charging kind of like a ridiculous amount for them, I guess. But I think it is a step in the right direction. It of course, as we all know, New York City, the way the city planners designed it, never factored in alleyways. And I guess it was just given the density of the city and the value of the land that was, the amount of land that was needed and the value attributable to the land, it was seen as a waste. But now it's coming back to bite us because now we have a rodent problem. And not only a rodent, I mean, to me, the rodent issue is not even the biggest issue. It's just a consequence of another issue, which is just having garbage, laying out in the open and walking by it and having to smell it, having to see it. It totally kind of gives the city a bad look. But I think with this, it looks a lot cleaner. I think just in order for this to be effective, the city really has to enforce it by issuing pretty harsh penalties as a method of deterrence, because ultimately this isn't a tax, this isn't a revenue collecting, the penalty shouldn't be seen as, let's just collect revenue from it, let's not let's put a low penalty to generate some revenue, because some people will say, all right, I'll rather pay the small penalty than have to deal with it. I think there needs to be a harsh penalty, as purely for deterrence and in hopes that people don't pay the penalty, right, and actually abide by the law. But also, I think the city has to enforce it in terms of making the law clear. All the trash has to be in the bins, every single, piece of trash, and you have to be able to close the lid. Because if you don't do this, if you just have people put some in the lid, some outside the lid, and even if they put it in, some in the bin, some outside the bin, and if you put it in the bin but overflow it and leave the lid open, it defeats the whole purpose. I mean, it's better than nothing, but as far as the rodents are concerned and the smell, I think it'll make a big difference if the garbage is in the bin and the lid is closed. So that's just a quick update. I know it's a little different from what I've been doing, but this is just something I noticed, and I think it's a step in the right direction.